Trump stops his Cadillac One motorcade for a homeless girl, and what he does will shock the world. That afternoon, the scorching sun blazed down on the bustling streets. The honking of car horns and hurried footsteps blended into the chaotic rhythm of city life. Leading a long motorcade, Donald Trump's Cadillac One glided through the crowded avenues, a symbol of authority passing under the curious gaze of bystanders. Inside the lead vehicle, Trump was attentively listening to a report from one of his advisors, but his attention was suddenly drawn to an unusual sight on the sidewalk. A frail girl, no older than 10, stood silently amidst the sea of moving people. In her small hands was a tattered cardboard sign with hastily scrawled yet clear words, "Please help. My family desperately needs a miracle." Trump leaned toward the window, his brows furrowing slightly. The girl wore a faded gray hoodie, her tangled hair partially covering a dirt-smudged face. Her wide blue eyes were fixed on the passing vehicles, as though searching for a glimmer of hope in a cold, indifferent world. "Stop the car," Trump commanded, his voice firm yet calm. The motorcade screeched to a halt, causing the trailing vehicles to jolt slightly. Inside the car, advisors and security personnel exchanged puzzled glances, startled by the abrupt order. "Sir, this area isn't safe. We should proceed with the route," one bodyguard said cautiously. "No," Trump interrupted, his gaze unwavering from the small figure on the sidewalk. "I want to know that girl's story." No one dared to object. Trump opened the car door and stepped out, immediately drawing the curious attention of the crowd. A few people recognized him and quickly pulled out their phones to record. The air seemed to still as he approached the little girl. Crouching slightly to meet her gaze, Trump softened his expression. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked, his voice gentle yet still commanding. The girl flinched, her eyes darting nervously to the security guard standing nearby. My name is Lily," she replied, her small hands clutching the cardboard sign like a shield. "Lily, why are you standing here?" Trump continued, lowering his voice as if to reassure her. Lily bit her lip, her gaze flickering with a hint of fear before she gathered the courage to answer. I just need someone to help my mom. She's very sick. We don't have a home. My dad died in the war." Her voice trembled, but her wide eyes held a quiet determination. Trump froze for a moment, his gaze softening further but tinged with deep thought. "Where did your dad serve?" he asked gently. "In the Middle East, sir," Lily replied, her voice cracking as tears welled up in her eyes. "He was a soldier, a hero, but when he died, we lost everything." Lily's words struck Trump like a blow to the chest. He took a deep breath, straightened up, and turned to his entourage, his expression resolute. "Get the car ready. I want to see where Lily lives," he declared firmly, his tone brooking no argument. "Sir, this is extremely dangerous." A bodyguard stepped forward, his voice low but urgent. "We cannot guarantee your safety in that area." Trump turned to him, his gaze steely and unwavering. "If a child can stand on a busy street to save her mother, then I can risk going to where they live. If you're afraid, feel free to leave." The team fell silent, no one daring to protest further. Trump placed a firm but gentle hand on Lily's shoulder, his eyes filled with determination. "Lead the way, Lily. Let's go meet your mother." The motorcade began to move slowly through narrowing streets. The scenery shifted. Gleaming skyscrapers and luxury storefronts gave way to crumbling buildings, sagging roofs, and narrow alleys filled with litter. Inside the car, Lily sat quietly, her small hands resting nervously on her lap. Her eyes reflected a mixture of hope and apprehension, but her tightly pressed lips revealed her resolve. She wasn't going to let this chance slip away. "We're almost there, Mr. Trump," she said softly, pointing toward a makeshift house tucked deep within the dimly lit alley. Trump nodded, his brow furrowing slightly. He understood now. This wasn't just a visit to a struggling neighborhood. It was the beginning of a journey to change not only Lily's life, but also the lives of countless others like her. The Cadillac One rolled to a stop in front of a dilapidated house at the end of a trash-filled alley. Its makeshift wooden door was pieced together from old planks, and the rusted tin roof was riddled with holes. A few children with dirt-smudged faces stood silently, their curious eyes fixed on the luxurious motorcade. Trump stepped out of the car, his gaze sweeping over the impoverished surroundings. His security team quickly moved into formation, scanning every shadowed corner. Lily, her small hand firmly holding his, led him to the front door and gently pushed open the rotting wood. "My mom is inside," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. Trump entered, his eyes immediately drawn to a small bed in the corner, where a frail woman lay. She struggled to sit up, her eyes widening with a mix of surprise and apprehension as strangers filled the tiny space. "Mom, this is Mr. Trump," Lily said, her voice quiet but brimming with hope. "He's here to help us." The woman looked up, her dry, cracked lips quivering. "Mr. Trump," she murmured, her voice hesitant, as though unsure if what she was seeing was real. Trump knelt beside her and extended his hand. "You don't need to say anything," he reassured her, his voice calm and warm. "Lily did a remarkable job bringing me here. I'd like to hear your family's story." The woman clutched her daughter's thin hand as though drawing strength from her. "My husband Daniel was a soldier," she began, her voice weak but steady. "He gave his life in the Middle East, leaving me and Lily behind. After he died, I got sick. I couldn't work anymore, and everything fell apart. We lost our home, our belongings, and now this is all we have left." Trump looked around the dimly lit home. No natural light seeped through the patched-up walls. In one corner stood a broken chair, its leg propped precariously, while old, worn boxes stacked on top of each other served as makeshift storage for clothes. "My mom has been sick for a long time," Lily said softly, her voice barely a whisper. "I've tried to help her, but I don't know what to do anymore. I don't want her to die." Lily's words froze Trump in place for a moment. He gazed deeply into the worried eyes of the little girl, her desperation cutting through the silence of the room. Turning to his entourage, he spoke with unmistakable urgency. "I need a full report on this family's situation immediately. Her mother's health must be evaluated tonight," Trump ordered, his voice leaving no room for debate. One of his advisors stepped closer and murmured, "Sir, this is a dangerous area. We shouldn't stay here too long. It would be better to let specialized organizations handle this." Trump turned sharply, his expression resolute. "She doesn't need promises. She needs action. I'm not leaving until I know that both of them are going to get the help they need." He knelt beside Lily, resting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Lily, you've done something incredibly brave. You've been fighting for your mom. Now it's my turn to fight for both of you." The woman on the bed broke down, tears streaming down her hollow cheeks. "Mr. Trump, thank you. I don't know what to say." Trump gave her a steady, compassionate look. "You don't need to say anything. Your husband gave his life for this country. This is the least we can do for you." Trump looked directly at her, his voice low yet resolute. "You don't need to thank me. Your husband sacrificed his life for this country. This is a debt we owe your family." As he stepped out of the small, crumbling house, a crowd had gathered outside. Their eyes, filled with a mix of curiosity and cautious hope, watched him closely. Trump turned back, glancing first at Lily and her mother, then at the onlookers who stood scattered around the alley. "This isn't just the story of one family," he said firmly, his voice carrying an undeniable authority. "This is the story of thousands of families who have been left behind. We are going to change that, starting today." A smattering of applause broke out in the crowd, hesitant at first but growing louder. Tired faces began to brighten with a glimmer of hope. Lily stood next to her mother, gripping her hand tightly, her wide eyes sparkling with newfound faith. Trump turned to his advisors and spoke with conviction. "This journey doesn't end here. This is only the beginning." With that powerful promise, Trump didn't just reignite hope for Lily and her mother. He lit a beacon of possibility for the entire struggling community. As Trump exited the dilapidated home, the atmosphere outside had shifted entirely. More residents from the surrounding slum had gathered, their expressions transforming from skepticism to cautious optimism. A few stood at a distance, observing quietly, while children clung to each other, gazing at him with wonder. Trump stood silently for a moment, his eyes scanning the impoverished surroundings, the crumbling homes, alleys strewn with trash, and faces etched with weariness and despair. An advisor approached, his tone urgent. "Sir, we need to leave immediately. This area is unsafe, and your presence is drawing too much attention. If anything happens, we won't be able to respond in time." Trump turned to him, his gaze sharp and unyielding. I'm not here to draw attention. I'm here to take action. Sir, you can act from your office, the advisor pressed, his voice insistent. You can issue directives, and we'll have support teams come in to handle this. Trump shook his head, cutting him off. If I leave now, it sends one message, that I'm unwilling to face the reality of what's happening here. And don't forget, I'm not doing this for convenience. Another security agent approached, speaking in a hushed tone. Sir, there's a group of young men gathering at the end of the alley. We don't know their intentions, but the situation could become dangerous. Trump glanced toward the alley, where a small group of people stood, their expressions unreadable. He exhaled deeply, then turned back to his team. Do your job and protect the area, but I won't leave just because of fear. He knelt beside Lily, gently placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Lead me to your neighbors, Lily. I need to understand more about what's happening here. Lily hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I'll show you, she said softly. Trump, Lily, and a few security guards moved cautiously through the narrow alley. Eyes from doorways and windows followed them warily, curiosity mingling with disbelief. A middle-aged man, his face weathered and worn, stood near the doorway of a dilapidated house. As Trump approached, the man stepped forward. Mr. Trump, I can't believe you're actually here, the man said, his voice hoarse. But if you're here, you need to know, we're not just poor. We've been forgotten. No one cares about us. Trump stopped, his gaze steady as he listened. The man continued, his voice tinged with both frustration and despair. Most of us here are families of people who served this country, but no one sees the pain we've been left with after they're gone. My son had to drop out of school. We survive on whatever scraps we can pull together, but it's never enough. Trump glanced around at the crumbling homes and weary faces. Turning to one of his advisors, his voice cut through the silence like steel. I want a full report on every family here, their needs, their struggles, and I want it on my desk by tomorrow morning. Sir, the advisor began cautiously, we could coordinate this effort with local agencies. Trump interrupted, his tone firm and unyielding. They've waited long enough. We're not going to delay any further. If Lily can stand on a street corner asking for help, then we have no excuse not to act immediately. As Trump returned to the front of Lily's house, the crowd outside had grown significantly. He stepped onto the worn, creaking steps, turning to face the sea of weary faces now watching him intently. No family, especially the family of someone who sacrificed everything for this country, should have to live like this, Trump declared, his voice ringing out through the hushed alley. You've been forgotten, but that ends today. I promise you, I will not only help Lily and her mother, but I will help every single one of you. Together, we will change this. A few scattered claps broke the silence, gradually swelling into a louder applause. Tears glistened in the eyes of some in the crowd, and for the first time in years, a spark of hope lit up their faces. Trump turned back to Lily, kneeling slightly, as he gently took her hand. In a soft but resolute tone, he said, "Thank you for having the courage to speak up. You didn't just help your mother, you've helped this entire community. I promise you, I won't let you down." As Trump climbed into the Cadillac he paused before closing the door, turning to his lead security officer. From this moment on, this is my top priority. I want every resource mobilized immediately. And remember, I will personally oversee every step of this initiative. The motorcade began to move slowly, rolling out of the slum. Behind it, the crowd remained, their eyes following the figure of the man who had just ignited a flame of hope in their community. But for Trump, this was far from the end. It was the beginning of a much greater mission. As Trump stepped out of the dilapidated house, the atmosphere outside had shifted entirely. The once cautious crowd of slum residents had grown larger, their wary and curious expressions now tinged with a faint glimmer of hope. Some stood quietly at a distance, observing the scene, while children clung to each other, their wide eyes filled with wonder as they watched him. Trump stood still for a moment, his gaze sweeping across the impoverished surroundings, crumbling homes, alleys littered with debris, and faces etched with exhaustion and hardship. An advisor hurried up to him, speaking urgently. "Sir, we need to leave immediately. This area isn't safe, and your presence is attracting too much attention. If anything happens, we won't be able to respond quickly enough. Trump turned to face him, his expression stern and unwavering. I'm not here for attention. I'm here to act. Sir, you can take action from your office, the advisor pressed, his tone firm but respectful. You can issue directives, and we'll bring in support teams to handle this. Trump shook his head, cutting him off mid-sentence. If I leave now, it sends one message that I'm unwilling to confront the reality of what's happening here. And don't forget, I'm not doing this for convenience. Another security guard approached, his voice lowered. Sir, there's a group of young men gathering at the end of the alley. We're not sure of their intentions, but the situation could escalate. Trump glanced toward the alley, where a small group of individuals stood silently, their expressions unreadable. He took a deep breath, then turned back to his team with resolve. Do your job and ensure everyone's safety, he said firmly, but I'm not leaving this place just because of fear. Trump turned to Lily, gently placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Take me to your neighbors. I need to learn more about what's happening here. Lily hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I'll show you, she said softly. Trump, Lily, and a few security guards moved cautiously through the narrow alley. Eyes followed them warily, their gazes a mix of disbelief and curiosity. A middle-aged man, with a weathered face and tired demeanor, stood near the door of a ramshackle house. As Trump approached, the man stepped forward. Mr. Trump, I can't believe you're actually here, he said in a hoarse voice. But if you're here, you need to know. We're not just poor. We've been forgotten. No one cares about us in this whole neighborhood. Trump stopped and listened intently, his expression serious. The man continued, his tone heavy with frustration and sorrow. Most of us here are families of people who served this country, but no one sees the pain we've been left with after they're gone. My son had to drop out of school. We live on whatever scraps we can gather, but it's never enough. Trump surveyed the scene around him. Crumbling homes, children playing in the dirt, and adults with weary eyes watching from doorways. Turning to one of his advisors, his voice was sharp and unwavering. I want a full report on every family here. Their needs, their struggles, and I want it on my desk by tomorrow morning. Sir, the advisor began cautiously, we could start by coordinating with local agencies. Trump cut him off, his voice firm. They've waited long enough. We're not waiting any longer. If Lily can stand on a street corner asking for help, then we have no excuse for delay. When they returned to Lily's house, Trump turned to face the growing crowd. He stepped onto the creaking wooden steps, his gaze meeting the many eyes fixed on him. The crowd, once wary and distant, now gathered closer, their faces a mix of curiosity and fragile hope. No family, especially the family of someone who has sacrificed for this country, should ever have to live like this, Trump said loudly, his voice echoing through the stillness. You have been forgotten, but that ends today. I promise you, I will not only help Lily and her mother, but everyone here. Together, we will change these conditions. Scattered claps broke out from the crowd, growing stronger with each passing moment. A few people began to cry, and in their eyes, for the first time in years, a spark of hope began to shine. Trump turned back to Lily, taking her small hand in his. He spoke softly but with conviction. Thank you for having the courage to speak up. You didn't just help your mom, you helped this entire community. I promise you, I will not let you down. As Trump stepped into the waiting Cadillac 1, he paused before closing the door. Turning to his head of security, he spoke with authority. From this day forward, this is my top priority. I want every available resource mobilized immediately. And remember, I will personally oversee every step of this initiative. The car rolled away slowly, leaving the slum behind. The crowd remained, their eyes following the figure of a man who had just ignited a flame of hope for an entire community. But for Trump, this was far from the end. This was the beginning of a far greater mission. Within weeks, Lily's story and Trump's actions had spread across the United States like wildfire. A video capturing the moment Trump stopped his motorcade to speak with the young girl became a viral sensation on social media. The image of him holding Lily's hand as they entered the slum, undeterred by potential danger, deeply moved people from all walks of life. On Twitter, the hashtag #HopeForHeroes trended nationwide. thousands of people shared Lily's story, along with their own accounts of sacrifice and the hardships faced by veteran families across the country. One standout comment read, "Lily isn't just a brave little girl. She's become a symbol for all the forgotten families. We can't turn our backs on them anymore." But the movement didn't stop with Lily's story. The Hope for Heroes initiative, launched by Trump, quickly evolved into a nationwide campaign. Corporate support. Major companies like Amazon, Walmart, and Apple announced multi-million-dollar donations to support the fund. Charity collaborations. Leading nonprofit organizations across America partnered to roll out tangible support programs for veteran families in need. Individual contributions. A teacher in Texas donated her entire bonus to assist a veteran family struggling to make ends meet. The movement, fueled by Lily's courage and Trump's determination, had become a beacon of hope for thousands of families who had been overlooked for far too long. Student initiatives. Students at a high school in California organized a drive to collect school supplies for the children of veteran families. Community Heroes, a veteran in Ohio, volunteered to repair homes for struggling families in his neighborhood. Lily's story inspired me, one volunteer shared on a television interview. "I want to do my part, no matter how small, to make a difference." Lily and her mother quickly became the focus of national attention. They were invited to appear on major television programs to share their story and express gratitude to those who offered help. In one emotional interview, Lily's mother reflected, "I used to believe we'd never have a chance at a normal life. But now I see hope, not just for me and my daughter, but for so many other families like ours." To mark the progress of the movement, Trump hosted a special event at the White House to honor veteran families and recognize the organizations and individuals who had contributed to the Hope for Heroes campaign. This event symbolized not just a moment of celebration, but a commitment to a brighter future for families across the nation. In his address to hundreds of attendees, Trump spoke with conviction. "Lily is a courageous little girl, and her story has changed the way we view our responsibility to those who have sacrificed for this country. Today, we honor the families of veterans, but more importantly, we commit to ensuring that they will never have to suffer in silence again." Trump called for continued community support. Each of us can do something, no matter how small, to help those in need. Together, let's build an America where no one is forgotten. During the event, Lily and her mother were invited to the stage. In a simple white dress, Lily hesitated for a moment before speaking. Her voice was small but filled with conviction. "I never thought a small cardboard sign could change anything. I just wanted to save my mom. But now, I see that when we have the courage to stand up, we can change the whole world. Thank you, Mr. Trump, and thank you to everyone who helped my family and so many others." The audience erupted into thunderous applause, the sound echoing through the hall. Many in the crowd wiped away tears, deeply moved by the sincerity and bravery of the young girl. The Hope for Heroes movement continued to expand, reaching beyond veteran families to provide support for other underserved communities. States across the country began implementing practical assistance programs modeled after the initiative. A television commentator remarked, "For the first time in years, we're witnessing real unity. Hope for Heroes is more than just a movement. It's a revival of social responsibility and compassion." The movement didn't just give Lily and her mother a new life. It brought hope to thousands of families across America. Yet Trump understood that the journey was far from over. His resolve deepened, determined to ensure that no one would be left behind. Months later, the Hope for Heroes initiative had brought monumental change nationwide. Thousands of veteran families received vital support, from housing and healthcare services to job opportunities. Stories of hope and transformation flooded the media, inspiring and warming hearts across the nation. On a bright, sunny morning, Trump presided over the dedication ceremony for a new national memorial at the National Mall, honoring fallen veterans and their families. The moment symbolized not only recognition of sacrifice, but also the enduring commitment to uplift those who gave everything for their country. The memorial was a deeply symbolic design, a bronze statue depicting a soldier kneeling to hold the hand of his young daughter, representing sacrifice and the enduring bond of family. Inscribed on the base of the statue were the words, "They gave everything, and now we must ensure they are never forgotten." Lily and her mother were invited to join Trump on stage as the statue was unveiled. Thunderous applause erupted, mingled with tears of emotion from the crowd as the powerful image came into view. Trump stepped to the podium, his voice both strong and filled with emotion. "Today we are not just unveiling a memorial. We are engraving a reminder into the heart of our nation that those who have sacrificed for this country deserve our deepest respect, and their families deserve a future worthy of their sacrifice." Lily taught me a valuable lesson. Courage knows no age, and hope can illuminate even the darkest places. This journey doesn't end here. We will continue to stand for every veteran family and for everyone who has given so much for this nation. The applause grew even louder, a standing ovation rising across the crowd as Trump stepped away from the podium. He gestured warmly to Lily, signaling her turn to speak. The young girl stepped forward, dressed in a simple white dress, her eyes filled with determination, yet tinged with hesitation. Her voice, shaky but heartfelt, echoed through the crowd. "I'm just a little girl. All I wanted was to save my mom. But thanks to Mr. Trump and everyone here, I've learned that even the smallest actions can change the world. Thank you for not only helping my mom and me, but also helping other families like ours." The entire square rose to its feet in applause, a wave of clapping and cheering spreading through the crowd. Many wiped away tears, deeply moved by the sincerity of her words. The memorial became more than a physical structure. It stood as a lasting symbol of the Hope for Heroes movement. Inspired by its spirit, states across the nation began implementing support programs modeled on the initiative, bringing hope to those who had long been forgotten. Trump continued to personally oversee the fund's operations, attending events to inspire and rally the community for further involvement. A journalist summed it up powerfully. "This isn't just a story about one man's compassion. It's the story of how a little girl, armed with nothing but a simple cardboard sign, managed to change an entire nation." This story is fictional, but its message is real. Around the world, millions of people like Lily are waiting for help from us. Let's start with small actions. Donate, volunteer, or simply share this story to spread hope. The video concludes with a heartfelt call to action. If this story touched your heart, please share it with your family and friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to help us spread more stories of kindness and humanity. Every share is a spark of hope. Every action a step toward change. Thank you for being part of this journey. The story ends with a clear and powerful message. Unity and compassion can create miracles, even from the smallest of actions.